So this animal, yesterday when I made that the short, I wanted to say that the animal looked like he was doing a little bit better, but I didn't want to get my hopes up, and so I didn't say anything. And I'm taking a look at him right now, and he's looking like he's doing a little bit better. I want to say he's doing a little bit better. From what I'm not whatever. I'm telling you the truth. I actually think that this animal's doing better. I wanted to say that yesterday, but I was like, I don't want to get my hopes up, and so I figured I would just whatever. But I'm taking a look at him right now, and he's actually looking like he's doing a little bit. He's actually looking like he's doing better. He's actually looking like he's doing better, and so I want to say he's doing better. He's still alive, and he's eating this alfalfa. A couple days ago he stopped eating the grain and the hay. I actually said that he stopped eating, and I got a bale of this chopped alfalfa. I was gonna use it for bedding, and then I was like, wait a second, let me see if he'll eat it, and I put it in the container. And he wouldn't eat the hay or the grain, but he would eat the chopped alfalfa. And so I was like, that's fantastic. I gave him the chopped alfalfa, and he's eating about a whole bucket of it every day. I mean, he eats about just under a whole bucket of it every single day. Yeah. Yesterday he ate about a half a bucket in the night, and he's still chewing on it, and he's eating this chopped alfalfa. And so that's very good. He's not really eating any grain, and he's not really eating any hay, but he is eating this chopped alfalfa. And I want to say that he's doing a little bit better. I don't want to say he's doing a little bit better. I actually think he's doing a good bit better. But I don't want to get my hopes up, okay? I don't want to get my hopes up, but I would say that he is doing better. But that's him right there. I got my tractor parked out front to give him some shade. Because I don't want the sun, I don't want him sitting under the sun for 3, 4, 5 hours a day, while I'm at work. But, I actually think that the animal's getting better, which I did not expect. But this animal, he's had a shot of everything. He's got he's got Zactran, he's got fluorphenicol, he's got a Baytril, or not Baytril, Tenatril, which is just the generic Baytril. And he has Macrocin, which is just the generic Draxin. And then he's also got Banamine, multiple shots of Banamine. Three shots of Banamine and a transdermal Banamine. And he's actually still he actually looks like he's doing better today. I've had him on antibiotics for about 13, 14 days now, and he's looking like he's actually doing better. And so if y'all want to see the calves in the front, they kind of let me get up close to them. But if they don't, I'm not gonna bother them. They're out there grazing the grass. I'm just gonna leave them alone. I'm gonna go check the calves in the back. This morning I went ahead and took the animals that were supposed to get I needed animals that needed boosters. I have animals that needed boosters. I gave them their booster, and I gave them their dewormer, and then I got them steered too this morning. And so the rest of the animals that needed to get steered, I got them steered this morning. And so everything's good to go. I got all these things lining up over the next 2.5 weeks. And this morning I kind of had this weird because I've already said that, the whole thing about my situation is that I've already determined what I'm going to do with the money, right? I'm making a drastic amount of money. I don't know how much money I make. I make a lot. If I spent $10,000 a month, it wouldn't even matter. I'm being completely honest about it. And I've already decided that what I will do with the money is that I will just reinvest the money back into my business, okay? And I was actually, this morning, it kind of hit me because, over the last about 3 or 4 days, I've actually increased my income by about 20%. over the last 3 days. And over the next 2.5 weeks, I would anticipate that I actually increase my income to almost maybe another 50%. All right, I will increase my income pretty drastically, pretty rapidly, okay? And this morning, it kind of hit me, you know, because like if I ran my business right now the way that it is, if I just ran my business sideways, I could spend, okay, this is a legitimate way to look at it. I could spend $10,000 a month and it would not matter. It would not matter, okay? I could effectively run my business sideways forever, all right? And I could spend $10,000 a month and the money, and it would not matter. Here within the next 2.5 weeks, I could probably spend $15,000 a month and it would not matter. It probably wouldn't. All right, and you know, within maybe you know, because I got another lot of cattle going to the market within about 2 months. And when I liquidate the cattle, I will probably end up in a situation where I could even spend $20,000 a month and it would not matter. I could run my business sideways. All right, you know, I would not be shrinking my balance sheet to have access to more cash. And I'll talk about this whole situation from another. I guess we can take a look at it from a different angle. The cattle look like they're doing okay. I'm gonna take a look at the grass. I got a lot of rain coming in this week. I'm gonna take a look at the grass. And so here's the situation. All right, you know, I've already determined what am I going to do with the money. What does my balance sheet look like? And I'll tell you my numbers, okay? So as of today, if I decided that I wanted to just do what I'm doing for the rest of my life, I'm not going to improve my situation, I'm not going to do any better for myself, I just feel like just doing this forever, then I could effectively spend about $10,000 a month for, you know, I could run my business sideways and I could spend $10,000 a month and it would not matter, okay? I could effectively do the same thing forever, okay? And so, but I've already decided that I'm going to expand my business, right? And when it comes to expanding my business, you know, I effectively have a deal that I, you know, with the dividend and, you know, lease properties and buying my own land. And give me a second, let me put my hat back on, okay? My hat flew off my head. I got a bit of wind out here today. So when it comes to expanding my business, you know, how did I decide that I was going to expand my business, right? How did I decide to expand my business? And you can tell that the grass is all going to grain. But I've, you know, one thing that I realized is that, you know, like if you take if you take grass like this and you cut the whole thing, like if you go and you take a piece of grass like this and you grab a whole bunch of it like this, and you know, you take a forage sample of that whole handful, that's actually kind of incorrect, because the cattle, what I've realized, you know, just from observing the cattle, is that the cattle will eat the parts of the grass that taste the best. All right, they'll go around and they'll chew on the grain heads, right? They'll eat the grain heads. You can actually see where the grain heads were eaten, right? I mean, they'll actually go and they'll eat the grain heads, and they will eat the leaf material. And so what I'm actually finding, because, you know, I keep very good track of my animals, right? I keep very good track of my animals. I make sure that their manure score is grading correctly. I make sure that they are conditioning properly, etc., etc. You know, I keep very good track of my animals. And even though the grass has gone to seed, the cattle are not showing any signs of digestive problems. All right, their manure score still looks good. They're still conditioning properly. And when I actually observe the animals walking around and eating grass, and I believe that the reason that it's happening, like you can see right here, that they chewed on this one and it's growing back. But the reason that it's happening is because the animals will walk around, and the way that I thought about it was like, if you had an apple, you're not going to eat the stem of the apple, right? I mean, you're not going to immediately eat the stem of the apple. You'll eat around the core. Most people will eat around the core, right? Eat the meat of the apple, and probably even discard the core. And that's what I believe that the cattle are doing with the grass. They're walking around, they're chewing on the grain head, They'll eat the grain head, and then they'll eat the leaf material, and then they'll eat around the stems. They won't really chew on the stems, all right? They don't eat a whole lot of stems. And so what I am finding is that my animals, even though my grass has gone to seed, the animals are not showing signs of digestive upset. And so here's, yesterday I was talking about the idea of a balance sheet and the idea of income and the difference between your balance sheet and your income. And then I utilize my balance sheet as a safety buffer for reinvesting my money. And so, I'll talk about this in terms of cattle, all right? Because here in about 2.5 weeks, I will effectively be pushing my business forward a lot. I've already decided that I'm going to expand the size of my business. I've already decided that I will do better for myself. I said, why not? That's the direction that I've decided to go. Okay, I'm going to do better for myself. I've decided that I will make more money. All right. Am I going to sell my soul to the devil for money? No, I'm not. I have decided to make more money. So, let's talk about this idea in terms of cattle. And maybe when I do this, it will make more sense to you. Okay, so right now I have 45 cattle on my balance sheet, okay? I have 45 cattle on my balance sheet. Uh-oh, I got some kind of a disease. No, it's just cow poop. I thought I had some kind of a disease, but no, the cows just pooped on it. Oh, okay. So, okay. So let's talk about the idea of the balance sheet, and let's talk about it in terms of cattle. Okay, so last week I brought home 10. The average weight of the herd that I brought home last week was 390 pounds. Okay, but before that, I was effectively buying 35 out of my 40 animals were effectively purchased at about 275 pounds. So the average weight of the herd, in terms of the weight of the animal that I brought home, did not go up that much. All right, maybe it went up to about 3 1/4. Okay. Maybe it went up to about 3 1/4. So when I take a look at my balance sheet, I effectively purchased a bunch of 325 pound animals at market value, okay, at commodity prices. All right, I paid about the commodity price. All right, $1,100 per animal, $1,200 per animal on the average. And so when I take a look at my balance sheet, I say, okay, the average weight of my animal. All right, this is the idea of the balance sheet. All right, because you can appreciate a balance sheet without having any income. This is very important for you to understand, because this is how you effectively generate massive amounts of money and reduce your tax burdens. Okay, and if you want to talk about reducing your tax burdens, call an accountant. I'm just giving you the information that I know, and the information that I know when it comes to accounting is very basic. All right, talk to an accountant about it. Don't take my word for it. Call your accountant. Okay, call an accountant and ask the accountant. But you can see that all of the grass has effectively gone to grain. Okay, all of the grass has gone to grain. But the animals will walk around and they'll chew up these grain heads too. And the grain heads have a lot of protein and a lot of energy in them. All right, this is what grain looks like. All right, if you're deathly terrified of grain, I don't want to feed my animals grain while you're looking at it. All right, this is what grain looks like. Cattle eat grain all the time. All right, the whole idea of, oh my God, animals don't eat grain is ridiculous. Animals eat grain and they eat a lot of it. All right, and this is what a grain head looks like. All right, the cattle will actually walk around and chew up these grain heads, and then they'll eat some leaf material, and that's how they'll do that. Okay, they do that in nature. This whole idea, oh my God, cattle don't eat grain in the wild is ridiculous. Cattle will walk around and intentionally chew on grain heads. All right, this is what a grain head looks like. Okay, if you don't know what a grain head is, if you don't know what grain looks like, you're looking at it. This is what grain looks like. Okay. All right, so okay, so I have a balance sheet, right? I have a balance sheet, and I take a look at my balance sheet, and I effectively determine, I brought home, let's just say that the average weight of the animal that I brought home was 325 pounds. I brought home a bunch of animals that were 325 pounds, and I paid commodity prices for them. How much did I pay? I paid $1,200 per animal. When I take a look at my balance sheet, these animals that I brought home, they're effectively, as of today, they're on the average weight. I would say that their average weight is probably around 500, 600, 550, 600. Excuse me, probably about closer to 550. All right, so if I brought them home at 325 pounds and they now weigh 550 pounds, and I fed them grass, right? Grass is almost free, right? You gotta, you know, I don't know how else to tell you this. Grass, you know, grass is not easy to grow. All right, if you want to learn how to grow grass like this, you're effectively talking about becoming one of the best growers on the entire planet. I effectively have some of the best results known to mankind. All right, I don't know how else to put it. Go and find somebody who does better than me, and then you'll see. All right, you're not gonna find anybody that does better than me. All right, you know, I do all this by myself. I graze this grass 24/7 with 3, 4, 5 animals per acre, and my grass still looks like this. All right, that's the reality. That's what you're looking at. All right, you know, and I'm not saying that to brag. You know, I am telling you, and then I am also giving you my information for free. How did I do it? All right, how do I do this stuff? Right, I'm telling you how I do this stuff, and I'm giving you the best information that I can. I legitimately graze this grass 24/7 with about 3, 4, 5 animals per acre all the time. It costs me about $400 a month, $350 a month, and this is what I have. All right, you know, it is what it is. It's the truth. I'm not lying to you. All right, and you know, and here's the thing. And I actually had, you know, I actually sat there and I thought about it this morning because, you know, over the last week, I actually increased my income by about 25%. I got a cool looking grain head right there. I got a lot of grain heads. You know, over the last week, I increased my income by about 25%. And I would actually say that over the next, and you know, here's a patch of dirt, and you can see the grass growing next to the dirt, so you can see how tall the grass is. You know, I increased my income by about 20% over the last week, okay? And over the next 2.5 weeks, I will probably increase my income by about another 50%. And so let's take a look at my balance sheet, okay? Let's take a look at my balance sheet and let's go over this whole thing. And when I do this, it will help you develop an understanding of how I, you know, because this is the business aspect of how I do things. So when I take a look at my balance sheet, I effectively have determined that when I take a look at my herd, I have effectively brought home all of my animals at an average weight of roughly 325 pounds. Here's a sunflower plant. And you can tell that the sunflower plant is still doing good, right? It still looks healthy. You know, maybe has a tiny bit of a sulfur deficiency, but I'm not too worried about it. Something like this is something, you know, I don't know exactly what's causing this, but that's not good right there. You see that? That's the new growth of the plant. This is the new growth of the plant, and it's all shriveled up. And this leaf is all shriveled up too. So, but there are a lot of things that can cause this. I mean, insects can cause this. You know, there are a lot of things that can cause that. The other sunflowers don't really seem to be showing it. You know, if it's real cool for a long time, you know, but don't take all of your information from one plant, right? I mean, take a look at all the other plants, right? You know, all the other plants, like this plant right here, doesn't look like it's having any problems, right? This plant right here, it's kind of twisted a little bit at the new growth, but you know, don't take all of your information from one plant, okay? If you know, if you go out and you diagnose a field, check all of the plants, as many plants as you can, okay? You know, like this is another broadleaf plant, right? This one doesn't seem to be having very many problems. I mean, it's got a little bit of a sulfur deficiency. You know, the stem is kind of purpling. And so, you know, like this one right here, you know, you know, unless the plant is you know, I'm not sure exactly, but this might be something that needs to be looked into. But maybe I'm starting to have a little bit of a phosphorus deficiency. But this is a very good example of your plant turns red, right? You know, your plant turns red, unless it's normally supposed to be red, which you know, I guess like you know, some plants are naturally red. But okay, let's take a look at the balance sheet, okay? So my balance sheet right now, the balance sheet for my business, you see this stem is extremely purple. You know, like when I see something like this, I can go on the internet and I can just look up what causes purple stems, right? So you know what mineral deficiency causes purple stems. But when I take a look at my grass, I mean, my grass it's effectively okay. That's the big thing, is that my grass is doing okay. I have plenty of grass. I mean, you can take a look at the biomass in my field. I have plenty of biomass, and the animals eat around the stuff that doesn't really have any nutritive value to it. So I'm not too worried about it. They're not having any digestive problems. Okay, so let's take a look at my balance sheet. My balance sheet, effectively right now, the balance sheet is that I have brought home a bunch of animals at 325 pounds, okay? Now, I brought home a bunch of animals at 325 pounds, and when I take a look at my animals, I would say that the average weight of my animal right now is about 550. So if I brought them home at 325, and I anticipate that they weigh 550, granted that I actually did my part, right? I actually did what I was supposed to do, and I raised the animal properly. Is the animal going to be worth more at 550 than at 325? Granted that I did my part. Yes, the animal will be worth more, right? Very simple. It's not confusing, it's not complicated. How much more, right? Well, a 325 pound animal, you can probably buy that animal for $1,100–$1,200. A 550 pound animal, you can probably buy that animal for about $1,700–$1,800. So the animals have gone up in value by about $500. So if the animals have gone up in value by $500, and I have 45 animals, then how far into the net positive is my herd? Right? Just think about that. How far into the net positive is my herd? Right? Very simple question, right? That number is the unrealized gain. That number is the unrealized gain. So I take a look at that unrealized gain. When I take a look at that, so let's say it's 45 times 500. So what is that? 45 times 500 is like a, I don't know, like a 25, is it 25,000? Let's say 25,000. So I take the $25,000 and then I sit there and I think about it. How much of this $25,000 do I want to pay myself? Right? Because my animals are growing all the time. When I take the money and I buy more animals, if I sell them big and I buy them small, I can even buy more animals. So I take a look at my situation and I say, okay, well, my herd is in the net positive $25,000, right? I've effectively made $25,000 on this herd. So what do? I sell all of my animals instantaneously so that I can have $25,000? No, I don't. What do? I sell the biggest animals out of the herd. I sell the biggest ones, and when I do that, let's say I sell 5 animals, right? Let's say I sell 7 animals, and when I sell those 7 animals, let's say I bring home $14,000. If I paid myself $14,000, but my business made $25,000, then how much money is left in my business? About $11,000, right? And then the next month, when 1 month passes, let's say I take that $14,000. Let's say I sold 7 animals, and I made $14,000. And I've already determined that I'm going to take the money and I'm going to reinvest it back into my business. When I take that $14,000 and I go and buy a bunch of 200-pound calves, how many calves do you think I could buy? Probably about 12 or 14. So I would sell 7 and I would buy 12 to 14. Let's say 14. 14 is let's say 12. All right, let's lowball it and let's say 12. So I sold 7 and I bought 12. I brought those 12 animals home and I raised those 12 animals. And let's say 2 die. So then that leaves me with 10. Those 10 animals over the course of the next month will put on about how much weight a piece? Maybe about 75 pounds. So if you take 75 and you multiply it by 10, how much weight is that? 750 pounds. So if I, and so it's a compounding growth. So if my business makes $25,000 and I pay myself $20,000, then I leave $5,000 in my business. Why would I do that? Because that $5,000 is effectively a safety buffer. All right, let's say, and then what am I going to do with the 20,000? Right, what am I going to do with the 20,000? I will risk it, right? I will risk it by buying more animals, right? I will reinvest the money back into my business, right? It's very simple. And then the next month, 1 month passes by, and I have made another whatever, $25,000, and I rinse and repeat forever, right? Rinse and repeat forever. My business makes a profit. I take a portion of that profit out of my business and I pay myself. I reinvest that money back into my business. I expand my balance sheet. I increase my earnings. All right, very simple. It's not complicated, okay? If my business makes 25,000 and I pay myself 20,000, then that leaves $5,000 in my business, right? And the animals are stabilized. You have to remember this. Think about it like two separate herds. And I will use my herd as an example right now because, I'm getting ready to liquidate a large amount of animals, right? I'm getting ready to liquidate a large amount of animals, and I've already determined that I am going to reinvest all of the money back into my business. So let's take a look at it in terms of my herd. I am looking to sell 18 animals, right? I'm looking to sell 18 animals. If I am selling 18 animals and I have 45 animals, if I sell 18, then how many animals do I have left? Right, what is that, 27? So I sold 18, I have 45, that leaves me with 27. The 27 animals are still in the net positive, right? I've effectively put weight on the 27 animals. That's not some debatable thing. I don't know exactly what the number would be, but I did, if the 27 animals are, whatever, I am putting weight on the animals. I'm doing it for a very low cost. So I have 27 animals left, right? I have 45 animals and I sold 18. If I have 45 and I sold 18, how much does that leave me with? That leaves me with 27. Those 27 animals, when I take a look at those 27 animals, I have determined that those 27 animals will continue to be profitable for maybe 3 months. How much of a profit do I anticipate that they will make? Reasonable number, whatever it may be. Granted that I'm not leveraging myself to the eyeballs, it doesn't really even matter, all right? And I've already even determined a simpler way to leverage. I've already determined a more simple way to leverage, so it's easier for me to keep track of things. And it's in terms of a fundamental idea, it's a very good idea. And the execution will also be very simple. All right, if I just leverage against, the whole idea of leveraging against my earnings, but not leveraging against my balance sheet. So let's take a look at this whole example, okay? So what do I mean by I am going to leverage against my earnings, but I am not going to leverage against my balance sheet? And the reason that I will do that is to keep my overall balance sheet leverage at under 1-to-1. And what do I mean when I do that? Let's take a look at my herd right now, right? In the next 2.5 weeks, I will liquidate 18 animals. And these 18 animals, they will effectively hit the scale at about 650, 700. And the majority of these animals, I will have brought them home at about 250 pounds, okay? So I'll have effectively taken the 18 animals from 200 pounds to 650 pounds, okay? And I did it for very low cost. I mean, the cost was minimal. It didn't really cost me anything. The cost of my business, I don't even care about the cost of my business because my business does not cost me anything. It makes me a massive amount of money. That's what my business costs me. It doesn't cost me anything. All right, why would I care about $2,000 a month when my business makes 25,000? Why would I care about that? I don't even think about the $2,000. All right, and so let's take a look at it in terms of my personal balance sheet. What am I looking to do, and why am I going to do it, and how will the numbers pan out? Okay, so I got 18 animals that will be going to market over the next 3 weeks, right? Over the next 2.5 weeks, I will have 18 animals going to market. When I liquidate these 18 animals, the 18 animals effectively, I will have brought them home at about 275 pounds, and I will have raised them to about 650, 700. I'll have put about 450, 500 pounds on each animal. And I did that for very low cost. I will make a large amount of money. And so when I sell the 18 animals, I will probably make enough money to buy, 30 animals, 32 animals, 2 loads of grain, and 2 loads of fertilizer, and I will still probably have some money left over. All right, when I liquidate my 18 animals, I will probably have enough money to buy like 30 animals, 2 loads of grain, 2 loads of fertilizer, and I will still have money, you know, a couple $1,000s left over. I could buy everything and I will still have some money left over, okay? And so that's what I anticipate. And in 2 months, I will be getting paid again, all right? I will be paying myself again here in 2 months. The rest of the animals will be going to market. So let's take a look at my personal balance sheet. I'm gonna get out of the wind. I got a lot of wind out here this morning. I'm gonna get out of the wind, and I'll talk to you all about my balance sheet. So the whole idea of the balance sheet right now, and from my, you know, using my balance sheet, my real life balance sheet. This is, you know, this is not some pie in the sky, fake believe type situation. This is my legitimate balance sheet. Okay, this is my balance sheet in real life. This is what my balance sheet is for my farm right now. So these animals that I will be liquidating, I got out of the wind. These animals that I will be liquidating, you know, I effectively have, I will have 18 animals going to market here in about 2.5 weeks, okay? I will have, you know, brought in a majority of these animals at about 275 pounds. On the average, it will be about 275, and they will be getting sold for about 675. And so I will, you know, I will have put on about 400 pounds per animal, okay? Every animal will effectively have put on about 400 pounds. And that 400-pound gain is my unrealized gain. That's how much money I've made, but I have not paid myself the money yet. And so when I take a look at it in terms of assets and not money, because if we take a look at it in terms of money, it's whatever, right? I make whatever, $25,000 a month. I make about you know, $25,000 a month, and I pay myself 15. I leave $10,000 in my business, and the reason that I do that is to provide a safety buffer for the money that I have to risk, right? And you know, I'll use my balance sheet as an example of this. When I sell my 18 animals, I will probably make enough money to buy 30 animals, 2 loads of grain, 2 loads of fertilizer, all the medication, and I will still probably have about $2,000 left over, okay? Something like that, 28 animals. And I will still have 27 animals, right? I am not liquidating all of my animals. Why would I liquidate all of my animals at the same time? I still have 27 animals on my balance sheet. The 27 animals on my balance sheet, I would anticipate that they are going to be profitable for about 3 more months, okay? I would anticipate that they will be profitable for 3 months, and they are already in the net positive. All right, I've already made money on the other 27 animals. You know, they've been here for a month, and the 27 animals over the course of the month probably put on 75 to 90 pounds apiece. And that money is also my unrealized gain. And so, you know, my herd is already in the positive, okay? My herd is already in the positive. I'm leaving money in my business. I will leave money in my business as a safety buffer, all right? Because I will have to risk my earnings to bring in new animals, right? When I bring in new animals, that is the riskiest time. That is the time where it's like the most risk. So when I sell my 18 animals, I will effectively make enough, you know, I will buy 30 animals with the money. I will buy 2 loads of grain. I will buy 2 loads of fertilizer. I will buy all the medication, and I will still probably have like whatever, $2,000 left over. And I will have 27 animals separate, all right? Think about it like 2 separate herds. I will still have these animals, right? The animals on the leased property are going for sale, and these animals will probably go to the leased property as replacements. And so I take a look at the whole situation, and when you take a look at my balance sheet, right, you know, this is my real life balance sheet. I will effectively stabilize my investment by keeping the other 27 animals. The 27 animals that are on my balance sheet will keep my business stable. The 27 animals will continue to produce a net profit. And I will leverage against the earnings, but I will not leverage against the other 27 animals. That's the whole situation. And so if I make enough money, okay, let's say, you know, you know, whatever, right? I sell 18 animals and I make enough money to buy 30. If I leverage against my earnings 1 for 1, how many animals would I have to buy when I sell my animals? I sold 18 and I made enough money to buy 30. So that's net positive 12 animals, right? If I'm net positive 12 animals and I take a loan for 12 more animals, I would be buying 42 animals and not 30. So I would have a loan for 12 animals. That money will be stabilized. That loan will be stabilized by the rest of my balance sheet. I effectively have, whatever, right? Right now I got 45. I expand the size of my herd by 12, right? I don't do math on camera because I mess up the numbers very badly. But that's the fundamental idea. I leverage against my earnings, but I do not leverage against my balance sheet. And the reason that I do that is because my balance sheet effectively has stabilized animals on it that I have anticipated will be profitable for the near future, maybe 3 months. All right, and that money will provide a safety buffer for the rest of my business. And so if I have 27 animals that are stabilized and on my balance sheet and they are profitable for 3 months, and I take the other 18 animals and I liquidate the 18 animals and I make enough money to buy 30, but I don't buy 30, I buy 42. Now I have a loan for 12 more animals, right? I have a loan for 12 animals, right? But 30 of the animals and then 27. So I effectively have 57 animals that belong to me, and I have a loan for 12. That's, but realistically, oh, actually, I understand now why the numbers are wonky. It's because, okay, the numbers are wonky. The leverage is very low because I messed it up. If I sell 18 animals and I make enough money to buy 30, I wouldn't buy 42, I would buy 60. I would leverage against the entire earnings. That's why I messed it up. That's why I messed up the numbers, okay? So okay. If I sold 18 animals, if I sold 18 animals and I made enough money to buy 30, I would take a loan for 30 more animals. So I would buy 60. And when I do that, my earnings will be leveraged against 1-for-1. So I will have 57 animals on my, okay. So if I sell 18, that drops me down to what does that drop me? That drops me down to 27. That drops me down to 27, and I buy 30. Right, with the money, that is the 18 animals that I sold, that is my money. That is my money, that's the money that I made. And I took that money and I bought 30 animals with it. So I would have 57 animals on my balance sheet, and I would have a loan for 30 more. So I would have 80, okay, and this is what I mean by, the amount of money that I am, it's about to go a lot of you are going to crap your pants, all right? Even me, when I was thinking about this morning, I was actually taking a look at it, and here's the thing. If I ran my business like this forever, if I legitimately just ran my business like this forever, I decided that this was all I was going to do for the rest of my life, I could spend $10,000 a month and it would not matter. In the next 2.5 weeks, but over the since last week, I actually increased my income by about 20%. And over the course of the next 2.5 weeks, I will more than likely increase my income by another 50%. Maybe even 100%. I may even double my income over the next 2.5 weeks. And just to put that in perspective, if I spent $20,000 a month on whatever it is that I wanted, it would not matter. That's another way to look at it. Am I going to do that? No, I'm not going to do that. I've already decided what I'm going to do with the money. All right, I've already decided what I'm going to do with the money. Okay, I've already decided. All right, I'm going to put it back into my business. All right, I've already decided I will reinvest it all back into my business. But that's the way that that leverage works. I have 45 animals. I will liquidate 18. When I liquidate the 18, I take a look at them. Oh, these animals, I brought home a majority of these animals at 275 pounds. Now they weigh 675. I've made a substantial amount of profit on them. I will sell them. And when I sell them and I buy them, if I sell them at 675 and I buy them small, then every time I sell 18, I can buy 30. But I'm not going to buy 30, right? And okay, so I have enough money to buy 30. When I sell 18, I have enough money to buy 30. Those 30 animals are entirely my money. They are entirely my money. I did not take a loan or anything. So I have 57 animals that belong to me, and I will leverage against the earnings 1 for 1. So instead of having 57 animals, I will have 87 animals. And on 30 of those 87 animals, I will have a loan. And that will be what keeps my my balance sheet stable. That will keep my balance sheet at less than a 1 for 1 leverage all the time, effectively all the time. And you know, and if something happens and my balance sheet looks like it's about to drop below or over one, or it's supposed to go over 1-to-1 leverage, then I will readjust and I will figure it out. Okay, but I don't even want to really even get close to 1 for 1 leverage. I'm really looking to do something like 70%. All right, my balance sheet should always be 30% in the net positive. And it will actually be more than 30% of the net positive, because the 27 animals that I have left on my balance sheet have actually gone up in value as well. If I sold those 27 animals, I could probably I would probably have enough money. If I bought them smaller, I would probably have enough money to buy like a 35, 40. All right, so the 27 animals, and so in all honesty, I will be leveraged maybe about I may actually be leveraged too little. All right, and that you know, now that I think about it, because you know, okay, if I have 45 animals and I sell 18 and I make enough money to buy 30, and so those 30 animals are my money, and so I effectively have 57 animals that are entirely my money, and I take a loan for 30 more, then that puts me in a situation where I now have 87 animals and I only have a loan on 30 of them. But the 27 animals that I had previously, you know, that I had not sold, have also gone up in value, right? And so, you know, and so, you know, then that might, you know, I might be using too little leverage. I may need to use a little bit more leverage. And why would I use leverage, right? And I talked about this yesterday. Why would I use leverage to purchase more tax deductible assets? Why would I do that? Oh, why? Well, I mean, I just gave you a part of the answer. The reason that I would use leverage is, number one, it gives me a tax benefit. If I take the leverage and I purchase a tax deductible asset at an appraisal value that I can knowledgeably appreciate, then I'm just trading the money for something that is equally as valuable as the money, right? Very simple, right? And when I do that and I appreciate the value of the animal, I am now making money via an unrealized gain. All right. And so when I do that, when I do that, the big reason that I would do that is because whatever, right? I can leverage against a portion of my balance sheet. I'm still in the net positive. I'm not even in the negative, not even close into the negative. I'm legitimately net positive. Okay. And okay, when I talk about money, don't get discouraged, and don't throw a pissy fit. Nobody cares. Go die poor, have fun. Don't take anybody else down with you. All right, when I talk about money, and don't whatever. I mean, I know you can do whatever you want. All right. I mean, die poor, have fun. I mean, I don't care. Trust me, it won't matter to me. All right, but right now I'm probably liquid about $500,000. I'm probably liquid about $500,000. I will probably be liquid over 1 million by the end of the year. Liquid. All right, and I've already talked about this. I've already spoken about this. And here's the thing, and I'll go over this part again, right? Because the whole thing is, okay, farming is not some easy thing. All right, if you legitimately think that, whatever, right? Oh my God, it's not fair. This guy does so well for himself. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's not fair, right? If that is legitimately how you think about it like this. If you are going to change, because I've already said this, I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules. I just play the game. And if we're going to change the game, you cannot just change the game for me. You're going to have to change the game for everybody. All right, you're going to have to change the game for everybody. And if you want to make things harder for me, then you're going to have to make things harder for everybody. And I'll tell you something. Most people, almost nobody makes it farming. Almost nobody. All right, I legitimately don't know anybody even doing 10%. So if you're going to make the game harder for me, you're going to have to make the game harder for everybody. All right, I play the same game as everybody. It's the same exact game for me. I don't make the rules. All right, I don't make the rules. I just play the game. And I tell you how I play the game. I show you exactly how I play the game. I show you how I grow the grass. I show you the animals that I buy. I show you how to appraise the value of an animal. You know, everything, right? I show you how to buy land. Everything. Right? I show it to you all for free, right? Tax benefits, tax deductions. I show you everything for free. The game is the game. It's the same game for you as it is for me. I don't make the rules. All right, and almost nobody makes it as a farmer. And so here's the thing. If you're going to make it harder for me, if you legitimately think that, oh my God, we need to make it harder for him. We need to make it harder for him because it's not fair. Then you're going to have to make it harder for everybody. Because if you don't make it harder for everybody and you just make it harder for me, you're punishing me for being extremely successful. And is that a reasonable thing to do, right? That's not a reasonable thing to do, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you know, that's not a reasonable thing to do. Is that morally correct? No, it's not. Right? It would not be the right thing to do to make the game harder for me and specifically for me, because then you would just be punishing me for being successful. Almost nobody makes it as a farmer. I did the exact same thing as everybody. I just made it. That's the difference, right? Me, I actually do this stuff in real life, and I do very well for myself. I actually outperformed practically the entire U.S. economy. It didn't even get close. I guarantee it. All right, if we want to talk numbers, I mean, I don't know how else to tell you this. I think, okay, I make more money by myself in 1 year than about 250 people combined, legitimately. That's how much money I make, and I'll probably even do better. All right, it might even go up to 500 times, maybe even more. All right, I've already decided what I'm going to do with the money. I'm going to reinvest it back into my business, right? And I will leverage against a portion of it. I will leverage against my earnings, but not my balance sheet. All right, I don't know how else to tell you this. The whole thing about this is like, farming is not some easy thing. And if you legitimately look at my situation and you go, oh my God, it's not fair. This guy does so well for himself that, we should, whatever. Oh my God, that's not fair. If you legitimately think it's unfair, then you go and do it. All right, you go and do it. Nobody's stopping you. Nobody cares. I mean, have fun dying poor. Trust me, I'm not going to be the one who cares. I will watch you die poor. It doesn't matter to me. All right, legitimately does not matter to me. I don't save people. All right, it doesn't matter to me. I play the same game as everybody else. Farming was just as hard for me as it was for anybody else. And it is kind of a miracle that I made it like this. Most people cannot make money like this on 500 acres. Most people can't make money like this on 1,000 acres. All right, I legitimately outperformed the entire U.S. economy just about on a 10.5 acre field running commercial cattle. It didn't even get close. All right, that's how much money I made. I honestly, I don't even know how much money I make. A lot. I'm not even saying this to brag about it. I'm being completely honest about it. I don't even know how much money I make. A massive amount. And just to put things in perspective, if I leverage against just my earnings for the next 2.5 weeks, I would have to purchase 50 cattle in just maybe even 60 cattle in 2.5 weeks. And in 2 months, I will have to do it again. And my earnings will compound. It will actually be more than 60 in 2 months, because I will have more than, I will have more animals for sale. All right, I may legitimately end up in a situation where I have like and it doesn't matter to me. Why not? The whole thing is, you see a bunch of people failing, right? I mean, failure, misery loves company. A majority of people are failures, okay? You can't hide it. There's nothing you can do to hide it. A majority of people are failures, all right? Majority of people are delusional fantasy, whatever it may be, oh my God, I fell out of heaven at 7. I don't have to learn anything, and I was born with the answer, and, proud and poor and all sorts of problems. Chances are you're not in a situation where you're going, oh, well, here's a guy who was legitimately doing very well for himself, giving all of his information away for free. Maybe I should learn this stuff and do something better for myself, earn a little bit more money and invest the difference. Chances are you're not doing that. All right, have fun dying poor. Nobody cares. All right, I don't know what else to tell you, especially not me. I'm not going to be the one who cares. I don't save people. All right, and if you want to take a look at it in terms of assets, over the next 2.5 weeks, I will sell 18 animals, and I will probably end up buying like 50. And then in 2 months, it will probably be me selling 27 and buying like 75. All right, that's another way to look at it. I mean, I don't even know how much money I make. I make a lot. All right, money is kind of negligible. It doesn't really even matter to me. All right, I can effectively buy anything. Effectively anything, short of like drugs, alcohol, gambling, a private jet, a yacht. I can buy anything. All right, I don't know how else to put it. I can legitimately buy just about anything on the entire planet. 99.99999% of anything, I can already buy it. That, and my income is actually going up. And the thing about farming is that it's not just magically easier for me. All right, and if you think it's unfair, then you go and do it. You go and buy yourself 250 cattle a year, right? You go and buy yourself 200 cattle a year, start yourself a business, and then have fun, and then do it all by yourself and have your magical journey. And if you're not gonna at least even if you're not gonna whatever even attempt to do it, then at least keep your BS to yourself, because I mean, no one cares. All right, I don't know how else to put it. All right, you're a bum, you're gonna die poor, nobody cares. All right, I actually made it. All right, I outperformed. I drastically outperformed practically everybody in the entire U.S. economy. Practically, it wasn't even close. I'm being completely serious about it. And I tell you how I do everything for free. And if it comes down to it, I will legitimately just be rich by myself. I don't care. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm not asking, I don't, trust me, I don't want your money. Trust me, I don't. All right, nobody's paying me to do anything. All right, nobody's paying me to do anything. Trust me, I don't care. All right, I make plenty of money, and the amount of money that I'm making is going up vertically. All right, I don't know how else to put it. All right, I don't know how else to put it. You can just cut the pie whichever way you want. I effectively outperformed the entire U.S. economy, just about. When you actually take a look at how much money I generate, I probably generate more than 350 people combined. That's another way to look at it. And the thing about me is that I'm living proof, right? Because at the end of the day, this is not an opinion for me. I may not have a Lamborghini. I may not have whatever, but you know what I do have? A massive amount of, I generate a massive amount. That's what I do have. All right, I don't have a Lamborghini, I don't have whatever, but I generate a massive amount of money. That's what I do. All right, and at the end of the day, it's not an opinion for me. This is real life for me. I legitimately show you how I do it. All right, and and here's the thing. Over the next 2.5 weeks, I will probably, I will probably have to end up buying something like 50 cattle over the next 2.5 weeks, and I will sell 18. Something like that. 2 months after that, I'll be getting paid again. All right, I would actually anticipate that I end the year making closer to $1 million than 250. Right now, my income is probably about 350,000. All right, when I take a look, I probably make about $25,000, $30,000 a month. I will probably end the year closer to $1 million a year than 350. That's another way to look at it. All right, I don't know. I know it just is. And I'm giving you my information for free, right? If you legitimately committed yourself to the idea of learning how to farm and becoming a farmer, you should be able to make it to the 10% mark. All right, if you cannot make it to the 10% mark, you're an idiot. All right, it's not because you're dumb. You're legitimately an idiot. I mean, you have it in you to get to the 10% mark. I don't know how else to tell you this. You can get to the 10% mark, and if you can get to the 10% mark, you can practice for free. All right, I don't know how else to tell you this. You're not so dumb that you cannot do 10%. All right, and I'm legitimately giving you all of my information for free, and I'm not giving you the wrong information. I legitimately made more money than effectively everybody in the entire U.S. economy starting myself a cattle farm on a 10.5 acre ranch. Effectively everybody, it didn't even get close. All right, if I was going to put a number on it, I would say that this farm makes me about $250,000-$350,000 a year, and my income is actually compounding upwards. I would actually anticipate that my income ends closer to $80,000 a month than $20,000 a month, $25,000 a month, legitimately. All right, you know, this is legitimately, if you want to learn how to become a farmer, this is your chance. I don't know how else to, I don't know how else to emphasize this idea. If you legitimately want to learn how to become a farmer, this could be your chance. This is your chance to learn how to do it. All right, you can make it too. You can. Anybody can. You can at least do 10%, and if you can do 10%, you can practice for free. All right, if you legitimately want to learn how to become a farmer, this is your chance. You may never get a better chance than this ever again in your entire life. All right, I'm showing you how I run my farm. I legitimately run a multi-million-dollar farming business by myself on a 10.5-acre field. This is your chance to learn how to do it. All right, this is your chance. All right, I don't know how else to put, more emphasis on this idea. All right. And that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.